my name's Javier. I'm Head of Partnerships and Community at With You With Me, and I have here with me today
Asheesh Mehra, Group CEO and co-founder of AntWorks.
And we're here today to announce the partnership between AntWorks and With You With Me. We've put together a podcast series of me actually speaking with a lot of the team at AntWorks. And what we wanted to do was actually put Ash on the spot here to answer some rapid fire questions. Are you ready to go, Ash?
I am, yes.
Let's go then. So one-worded answers to the questions that I'm just about to ask.
All right, I may cheat a little bit.
All right, I might allow it. Here we go. What's your favorite thing about being an entrepreneur?
Limitlessness.
Why did you begin AntWorks?
Curiosity and to fulfill a dream.
Favorite meal?
Chinese, Japanese.
Why are you passionate about the business?
One word, I'd say disruption.
Favorite way to spend downtime?
Family, scuba diving.
What makes AntWorks unique?
Fearlessness.
Favorite movie?
Castaway.
What are customers asking for in a post-COVID world?
Organizational resilience, acceleration.
Favorite holiday destination?
Maldives, Italy.
What are key levers that will help clients decide to take a leap and embark on their transformation journey?
Operational and business continuity for their end customers.
Favorite book?
Two recently, The Art of War and Everything is Beep by Mark Manson.
What is one lesson you'd like for leaders to looking to embark on enterprise-wide automation projects?
I would say open-mindedness, wholehearted commitment.
Why the name AntWorks?
Behavioral fascination for ants.
And what is the most challenging thing about being an entrepreneur?
That's a laundry list out there, but I'd say loneliness, hard calls, life balance, and pressure.
Ash, thank you so much. We are extremely excited about the partnership between With You With Me and AntWorks. And everyone, we look forward to sharing the podcast series with you.
We are absolutely excited as well and can't wait for us to get going with this partnership. And thank you so much for this conversation.
My absolute pleasure. Enjoy, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this podcast series. I am Javier, Head of Partnerships and Community at With You With Me, and I am very excited to be conducting this podcast series with a new and exciting partner that we have, AntWorks. So I'd like to welcome the AntWorks representatives, CEO, Group CEO, and co-founder, Asheesh Mehra. Welcome, Ash. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Javier. Thank you and excited to be speaking to you guys today.
Thank you so much. What we might do is, Ash, if you could briefly introduce yourself and who you are at AntWorks, that'll be great.
Super. So as you said, Javier, Group CEO and co-founder of AntWorks, people like to refer to me as Chief Everything Officer at AntWorks. Purely because as an entrepreneur, you end up being something for everyone and doing everything. So that's me. Spent 20 years of my life in the back office world and BPO world. Was tired of fulfilling someone else's dream. Decided to found AntWorks to fulfill my own dream.
Lovely. And could you go into a little bit more detail about that journey to become the Group CEO of what's now known as an AI company? That would be great.
Yeah, as I mentioned, after spending 20 plus years with a really steady, reliable job in the corporate world, I decided to go out on my own and take the massive risk of building my own dream, as I mentioned, and not somebody else's. So in 2015, my co-founder and I set out to disrupt the traditional robotics process automation, or what the world calls RPA industry, by creating a whole new technology, introducing to the market the industry's first integrated automation platform. And Javier, it was an exciting start in 2015, purely given where the marketplace was at that point in time. And as I said, in 2015, we began the journey, and the last 5 years have been some of the toughest, most challenging, and yet equally rewarding experiences I've had in my life till date.
That's fantastic. Ash, if you could go, you briefly just mentioned what makes, I suppose, AntWorks unique, but if you could go into a little bit more detail about what it is that actually, in comparison to other AI technology companies, what makes AntWorks unique?
So to explain what AntWorks or what makes AntWorks unique, let me take you back in time a little bit and walk you down memory lane to really then talk about why AntWorks is so unique today in the marketplace. Coming from the BPO world and a BPO background, uh, I was responsible for delivering back office operations for global customers in my past life, on my corporate life, right? It was during this time that really Gen 1 RPA, the massive wave began, and companies were looking at how to augment the human workforce, reduce costs, and drive further efficiencies within the shared services model, and really, which is where RPA was born, right? So at that time, it was a great solution. You know, I have to give it that. The world wasn't looking to automate a business process end to end. It was simply about automating a task in the business process. Being in the back office, what struck out to me was the importance of data, and not just the transport of data, which is what RPA is used for, but the ingestion and curation of clean data. The saying goes, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So everyone was so focused on the data transport, but completely did not look at the most critical piece in an automation journey, which is the right set of data, which is clean data and curated data. So my co-founder Govind Sandhu and I recognized there was a gaping hole in the market and set out to solve the data challenge in 2015 when we founded AntWorks. Again, with a business process mindset, we wanted enterprises to be able to achieve true end-to-end automation and not just task automation. And what do I mean by end-to-end automation? Let's take a claims process, for example. You file your claim. If you use RPA can only deliver small little pieces of that claims life cycle till the claim is paid out. But what I talk about an end-to-end automation journey, it's right from ingesting the data, receiving the claim, and making a decision and informing the customer of the decision of that claim that the customer has made. That's what I mean by an end-to-end automation process. So for a business process, not task to be automated, you need to be able to really ingest all data types. And what I mean by that is structured, semi-structured, unstructured, inferred, image data, because these are all the data types that really come through in any back office environment, irrespective of industry vertical. So there was really no tool out there on the marketplace that could do this. The only tool available to extract data at about 5 years ago and even now was OCR, which is really, frankly, a really dated piece of technology, 40 years old. And when OCR was being used 5 years ago, when we founded ourselves, the world was not looking to automate. The world was looking at extracting basic levels of data. So we set out to build a platform that could read and extract, as I mentioned, all data types, and we called it cognitive machine reading, or CMR. What CMR does is really brings human cognitive frameworks into data digitization using the same process the brain employs to read, understand, and interpret data. So it's not about understanding characters, it's about pattern recognition and understanding of the holistic picture rather than just focusing on an alphabet and bouncing it off a font library, which is what OCR does. So for the first time, a technology brought to bear really the capability to harness unstructured data. And unstructured data is 85% of any back office, and 15% is structured data. With that ability, businesses can now have machines think cognitively from the beginning to the end of a process, taking enterprises a step closer to achieving true automation nirvana, is what I call it, or straight through processing. So really, that's what makes AntWorks unique. It's the whole platform. It's a very powerful data ingestion engine at the front end that can read any data type. It's built for the business user, the business analyst on the operations floor, and not built for a technologist.
Ash, thank you so much for answering that question. I really loved what you said, automation nirvana. That was just made so much sense. Thank you. What I would like to move on to, Ash, if you would be so kind, I'd really like to ask you, currently we're in the, a COVID world where, we really don't know what's going to be happening. I would really like to know if you can share with us what customers are asking for in what will be a post-COVID world.
Yeah, Javier, I wish the dictionary very quickly reprinted and added the COVID world with a definition to it, because absolutely we are living in a COVID world, and who knows when the post-COVID world will come about, because I think we're still in the middle of it, nowhere close to seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. But one thing is for certain, COVID-19 has not only increased the appetite for automation, it's demonstrated it's an absolute necessity and not a luxury anymore, or a nice to have anymore for enterprises. It's no longer on the wish list. It's truly moved to a must have. And you may see the recent Forrester report, which contends that automation may be the key tool for many businesses to survive the COVID-19 recession, allowing them to sustain operations and continue to deliver services with little disruption. So really, COVID-19 has thrown all of us off, thrown businesses on its head, made people relook at things, which you could take positively, or you could put your head in your hands and say, "Oh, what now?" Right. So, two of the biggest indicators we witnessed, Javiera, is that accelerate an enterprise's need, um, potential, and appetite for automation are the amount of unstructured data an enterprise is dealing with, and also how heavily paper-based their processes are, right? Because paper-based processes are going to have to disappear very quickly, mid-COVID, post-COVID, in my opinion, because transporting that paper is going to become challenging as well. There are businesses we were engaging with pre-COVID about their digital transformation needs who unfortunately didn't act quick enough, and have come back to tell us that, pardon my French here, that they're really kicking themselves for not automating some of the most essential of processes, because they would have been able to deal with everybody working from home, making sure keeping to their customer commitments and promises, and making sure customer success was in place. Let's take, for example, what's happening with the insurance industry around the world. And insurance is a very strong sector for us, so I'll take an example there. The industry is typically more cautious and traditional in their approach to business, right? Yet the COVID-19 pandemic, they were quickly faced with new and unforeseen challenges, from a sudden spike in queries to greater demand for things like life insurance and a surge in claims, all while transitioning their labor force to a work from home model. And we also know a key driver for insurance customers' experience is speed and accuracy of claims processing, right? Yet 1 in 5 claims, this is just an amazing statistic, 1 in 5 claims are processed inaccurately. That's 20%. And most insurers haven't automated claims processing, while they may claim to, but they haven't. with no pun intended on claim there. It's created a perfect storm for the industry, truth be told, with disruption happening and at an unprecedented pace and scale. This is where we're seeing more and more enterprises viewing automation and AI technologies not just as a way to drive efficiency and reduce costs, but absolutely essential to mitigating risk and driving organizational resilience, right? Operational resilience, leading to organizational resilience. One provider we've been working with to automate their claims processing used manual processes to handle the large volume of policy management documents they received. Many of those documents held vast amounts of unstructured data, especially handwritten text. Since they've adopted the cognitive machine reading technology from AntWorks, they were able to decrease turnaround times and achieve up to 94% increase in accuracy for handwritten recognition. Now, that's a complete game changer for the industry, right? Another insurer we work with was able to increase productivity by 200% by automating its title report generation process, right? That's a mortgage insurer. For insurers, really, every bit of digitization and automation they can build into processes goes a long way to improving their um, operational resilience and efficiency. In my view, yeah. Bottom line is manual processing work against that is never going to stack up. Yes, you do need a human in the loop. I'm not saying automation is going to take over every single process 100%. However, wherever you have paper, it is going to have to disappear. And I've just used a couple of examples from our client base to just share with you, what they've experienced or how they've benefited uh, during COVID and how they're going to benefit post COVID. There are so many industries from mortgage to retail to banking that are paper dependent and have so many processes just absolutely ripe for automation. So, in my view, may not be in the short term, and when I say short term, I'm talking about 6 months. But in my view, as organizations, have settled down on uh, focusing internally and taking care of their own customer needs, their own customer success, um, you will see a huge spike on the automation side and the AI side in the medium and long term for sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. What I really wanted to do was, I think it's a great segue into the next question that we have. What are the key levers that will help clients decide to take the leap and embark on that transformation journey that you just discussed?
So, Javier, a very, very interesting question because you could look at that through multiple different lenses. In my view, the next 6 to 24 months are going to be challenging times for all organizations across the world. I would say the biggest lever is for kickstarting your digitization and automation journey is uh, is to really achieve what we've been calling organizational resilience, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to matter in how you come out of the whole COVID environment or the COVID world, as you called it. Enterprises from top down to bottom up, in my view, need to start by focusing on what's the most critical outcomes for them, and then really prioritize uh, how they want to embark on their digitization journeys, and not to be um, you know uh, what should I say, cynical, but growth can only come if you continue to exist, right? So I would offer, guidance to organizations wondering how and where to begin. One, commit wholeheartedly to the initiative. digital transformation is not a project. It's not low-hanging fruit. It's a journey to continuous improvement. And organizations, leaders, project teams need to understand that this is not a one-time project. This is not something that you do um, to try and get quick benefits. This is a journey, and you got to be patient to really reap the fruits of that journey, right? Point number two, draw out a roadmap. Very clear. No roadmap, you're not getting anywhere. Uh, Point number three, make sure you put in place the right governance, the right teams, and resources to support the initiatives and ensure you allocate the right budgets to the initiative. So I'll repeat that because that's a very critical piece of this entire automation journey, right? Make sure you put in place the right governance, teams, and resources, and make sure you support it with the right budgets. Very, very important. Pick your use case wisely. Point number four, right? An outcome delivered with no human intervention is what you're trying to achieve. And ensure you pick your use cases in a way that you know you can demonstrate success. Don't try to be extra ambitious at this point in time where you're trying to solve for the toughest challenge or the hardest challenge right now. You know, get some quick wins, build confidence in the organization. Very important to pick your use case wisely. Set realistic targets and goals. Number five, uh, invariably you see people start setting themselves really, really large goals and aggressive goals, and then failing. And they're doing a disservice not only to themselves, but to the whole enterprise and to everybody within the enterprise as well. So picking or being realistic with your goals and targets is important. And lastly and finally, make it happen. Don't overthink it. The time is now. Don't try to be an evangelist. Be a doer. So those would be my six tips, or levers, if you may, uh, that clients, project teams, leaders should really look at while embarking on their digitization and automation journeys.
Ash, thanks so much for answering those questions. What I really just wanted to recap, take a moment to recap, was two important points that I think that you highlighted. One was that you said automation is not about removing a human entity. That's not what it's about. And I really am really glad that you said that, because I think what we're seeing sort of in the market as well is that people, when they're trying to adopt or not adopt automation, is because they think it's going to take over humans' ability to actually contribute and be involved. And that's absolutely not what it is at all. So thank you for obviously raising that point there. And what I really loved what you said about your last response was the step-by-step guide in terms of having an approach, because it's really important, because you want to make it work and you want to make sure that you start with something, a tangible outcome, and follow a process so that you can see success there. So thank you obviously for sharing that with us. What I really think would be great to move on to now is, Ash, can you share with us what are some of the lessons that you've learned that you'd like for leaders looking to embark on an enterprise-wide automation project?
We could be here all day if I go down that list. But I can't emphasize enough, Javiera, this one point, um, that if you take only one thing away from this discussion today, let it be this: data is the single most important component to the success of any digital transformation or automation journey, right? And the world, uh, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, did not realize that, because they were just so uh, taken away and just so focused and had horse blinders on with just RPA, right, which was task automation. And I don't even know whether it should have the word automation in that acronym, because automation means you're doing something without human intervention from soup to nuts. But that said, data, in my view, is the most critical ingredient um, in any automation or digital transformation journey. As I said, if there's one thing to take away, that's the one thing to take away. But the premise is very simple. The cleaner and quicker that data can flow through an organization, the faster you will achieve your desired business outcome, period, right? Whether you take a bank, whether you take a mortgage company, whether you take an insurer, whether you take a telco, whichever industry segment it may be, right? The starting point for any organization is the input of data. And the end point to get customer success is an outcome that you get from processing that data. So the cleaner the data, the higher the probability of you having high customer success, right? So that's the fundamental focus and approach that we've taken at AntWorks to come at automation. So there are two paths, right? Coming at automation from a data transport perspective, which is RPA, or coming at automation from a clean data and curated data perspective. And we've taken the data first approach, which is coming at automation with uh, clean and curated data being front and center of any conversation that we have. Because as I said earlier, right, garbage in, garbage out. So if you have inaccurate data, you will end up getting an exception downstream. If you have clean and accurate data, it gives the business owner the highest probability to achieve automation nirvana or straight through processing. Right. So this is where we've seen more and more enterprises viewing, automation technologies not just as a way to drive efficiency and cut cost, but we talked about it earlier, but absolutely uh, essential to mitigating risk and driving, as I said, organizational resilience, right? Very, very important for all organizations to focus on right now. How do we come out of this strongly and alive? One provider we've been working with to automate claims, like I said, right, earlier, has really uh, seen the benefit of having used the data first approach. And again, that's my biggest lesson that I've learned, is to make sure that you understand what it takes to achieve success. And to achieve success, you do need a very, very strong and comprehensive uh, data engine at the front end of your automation journey.
Thank you, Ash. I actually couldn't agree more with you. I think data is obviously that key element. And I love how you said garbage in, garbage out, because you're absolutely right. If you don't have the front end information coming through for the automation process, you will, like you said, get that exception. So I think that's really a critical point in terms of other leaders or industries looking to embark on that journey to understand that you get that part right, and then you are absolutely going to see the benefits of what an automation industry should look like. So thank you. I think that was very important and a very key and valuable lesson to have learned and share with us today. Now I'm going to change sort of the scenery, because this is something that I know myself that I've been quite curious. So I'm super excited to be able to ask you this question. But can you share with us why the name AntWorks and what the actual story behind this is?
So, I get that question always. And, it kind of always, over the last 5 years, does send a shiver down my spine when I'm asked that question, because there's just so much passion and emotion that comes out. So ever since I was a child, I have been very fascinated by ants, right? Don't ask me why. For some crazy reason, I've been fascinated by ants. And I've been fascinated by the characteristics of ants, right? So if you think about what they can accomplish and what they have accomplished, ants have really incredible and unique capabilities that I think a very large percentage of the world really doesn't recognize or understand as well. They can carry 50 times their own body weight. Tell me which other species on planet Earth can do that. They can build structures millions of times larger than themselves. Look at an anthill. You see only the top, but if you look below the surface of the ground, it's just like an iceberg. It's massive at the bottom, right? They are incredibly disciplined. They work in teams. They follow their leader, which is the queen ant. Um, for me, those were the characteristics I wanted in a company. So basically, the name was a no-brainer for me. AntWorks was just natural.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I love that. And I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, there are no other species that can carry that level of body weight. But a very fascinating fact, obviously, that most people, when they see ants, they, you know, like you said, I love the vision that you have. But, you know, ants actually provide from an ecosystem perspective, and I see why you were passionate about that. They basically aerate the soil and bring oxygen to plants, which oxygen gives us life, you know. So it actually makes quite, you know, a lot of sense to name the organization that you are so passionate about by a species that actually plays an important role for the entire world, you know. So yes, so kudos to you in terms of thinking it that way, because it is a very important part of the entire ecosystem, if we can think of it like that in the marketplace then too.
No, absolutely, Javier. As I said, if you study ants, and I've done a lot of study on them, and what I shared with you were just a quick 4 5 broad headings, if you may, that led to leaning towards that name. But really, if you and you stated one of them, right, which is really critical one for the world and the ecosystem and for the planet. But really, if you dig deeper and understand them as who they are, and the species that they are, they just reveal and will bring to life for you so many different aspects that we as human beings could learn from. And I mean, if you look at their size, right, they really are 1 millionth the size of you and me, or 1 trillionth the size of you and me. But you know what? They can make you and me uncomfortable.
Yes, they can. Yes, they absolutely can. That's fantastic. Ash, I really want to say thank you so much for your time and for joining me and answering all the questions I have. You've been a fantastic guest, and I really appreciate and quite admire the passion that you have for the organization, obviously. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Javier, for having me, and absolute pleasure having spent my morning with you.
Likewise, thank you so much, Ash. I look forward to the next series and hearing from more of your team at AntWorks.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.